Hi everybody, welcome to KeyMark's Insights Conference. We are excited to be with you again this year. We are thrilled to be able to provide you some great content, talking about some phenomenal things that are happening from Highland Software and from our other partners, and filling in on what's happening within our space. A lot has changed since 2020, besides COVID, besides masks, besides all the things that we're doing that are different from a personal lifestyle. In our space, we've been able to evolve. And the way that I look at it is, when you think about what was happening back in the early 2000s, we had people talking about classification. We had people talking about how you can separate documents. And now it's exciting because we're talking about machine learning. We're talking about artificial intelligence. And we're talking about business process management and truly recreating the environment of hyper automation. So the way that I look at this is a beautiful time to be in our industry. This is a beautiful time to be in our space. And our job is to educate you about ways that you can improve your overall organization's ability to process information. Whether it's a back office solution or a mission critical app, we at KeyMark are here to help you and make sure that you have the right tools, the right training, and the right support to implement these systems across your entire enterprise. So the way you have to look at this is there's a lot of things that are happening a little bit different than what they used to. So at KeyMark, we've always focused on the total solution. We realize that you have to get accurate data into the system, or data as accurately as you can possibly put it into the system, and make sure that you're processing that information as quickly and as eloquently as possible. And obviously the thing about it is, if you've seen some previous presentations that I put together and that I've given you, we always talk about trying to make sure that there is a human element, so that if there is exception handling associated with it, that the human is in the best position to make a great judgment based upon the data that we present to them. So this is more important than ever, because the last thing that we need to do is automate everything out there and have bad data processing. We don't want to have bad mortgages. We saw what happened in 2008. And obviously in the healthcare space, we never want any patient to have bad information that's flowing through their system. So here at KeyMark, we have always focused on that total solution. The ability to use capture, the ability to use OCR, the ability to use workflow and case management, combine that with RPA, robotic process automation, to create what we consider to be a phenomenal artificial intelligence solution. So this total solution that we can bring to you nowadays is the premise of artificial intelligence, and something that we truly have focused on. And I think that over the last year, obviously things have been a little bit different, but we have stayed on top of our game. We have delivered exceptionally good solutions. And what we have also done is we worked with our vendors and found other vendors that can provide you with that total package. So when you think about it, what are we actually delivering to you? Well, obviously you always have your core solution, whether it's an ERP system, whether it's an HIS system, or maybe it's a customer relationship management system. You have something that you're working from within. But the way that we look at this is we have to make sure that when we are feeding this information to it, that we are giving it the proper fuel. And that fuel is going to come from either maybe a form, an electronic form specifically. It might come from an optical character recognition solution that's using machine learning and basically making sure that we're reading the data as it goes through, so that when it loads into that system, it's accurate. It can process effectively for you. That's going to probably load into a workflow system. It's going to probably load into a case management system, so that you can achieve your goals faster, better, and make sure that you're achieving exactly what it is that you're looking for from an organization. We want to automate as much as possible. Things that we used to think about that would happen basically in 2025, I will admit, because of COVID, we have moved up the time frame. And now when you think about it, we are now looking at a solution that you're going to have to think about today to be competitive in your environment. Your goals from an organizational standpoint are to provide better service to your customers. If you're obviously a government entity, better service for your constituents. If you are a business, an organization that makes sure that you're publicly traded or anything like that, we want to provide top value to the shareholders. So we want that valuation to go up as much as possible. If you're a government entity, maybe you're in a position where your county's growing, or maybe your state's growing. So you need to be able to provide better solutions by using less people and being more efficient. So this total solution that we're talking about is very important to you. And some of the things that you can do with robotic process automation is key to your ability to execute. You don't necessarily need humans to do the heavy lifting that you did in the past. And you can use things like robotic process automation to have digital workers performing 24/7, 365, and making sure that they're automating as much as possible. So the end result of this is you can have these reports at your fingertips. I don't have a phone on me, but you can have reports that show literally right there on your phone so that you know what's happening. Obviously, you can bring it up on your desktop. You can see these reports. You know exactly what's being processed as effectively as possible. And the nice thing about it is this information is going to be accurate. It's going to have all the data elements that you need to be as effective as possible within your job. Now, I realize that some of you may be administrators, and you might be thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, how do I make sure that I'm trained on all those things? The great thing about it is I thought the same thing for a long time. I thought that this big animal called artificial intelligence was too big, too broad for us to understand. The beauty of it is that we bring it right there to your fingertips because we actually have all these systems available to us. And if you think about it, the key that we're trying to accomplish now is we're trying to make sure that the mobile capture capabilities, the abilities to do everything from your actual mobile phone are there at your fingertips. So we've focused on delivering better solutions right there on the phone to make sure that you can capture the data accurately and as quickly as needed to make sure that it's processed effectively. So that way, when it's ingested into the core system, when it's ingested into the workflow system, it does not have errors. So there's a lot of things that have changed in the COVID world. If you think about it, if I would have said to you back in 2019, a lot of your communication to your doctor is going to probably happen across your computer screen, you'd look at me and say, Jim, you're kind of crazy. But now, through the use of some of the things that we're doing with virtual collaboration, we now have the capability of understanding how we can automate, whether you're obviously a doctor, or you might be in the insurance space, you might be actually a healthcare worker trying to work with somebody in a case management situation that might be far away from you. And through the virtual collaboration tools, we can now link back to a great on-base system and actually provide these solutions to you at your fingertips. I think this is really important from a delivery mechanism for what we can do going forwards. Because now you don't necessarily have to be there. You can actually be as effective remotely as you could if you were in front of somebody. But even more important, you can be there within a moment's notice. You don't necessarily have to get in a car, maybe even you had to get on a plane, to actually have that collaboration process happen. You can probably do it more often. You can do it more effectively. And hopefully the end result is that we've improved our ability to communicate with somebody remote. The great thing about the virtual collaboration tools is they can also be tracked, they can be monitored, and they can be stored in a repository long term so that you can be the most effective organization out there and provide those high quality services. Without question, there has been a significant change for how we delivered solutions. In today's world, we have to look at the cloud. And ultimately, the great thing about it is every single one of these solutions that I just talked through with you can actually be delivered as a cloud-based application or a premise-based application. So without question, if you look at it, when you think about the whole solution and what is really needed for artificial intelligence, the beauty of it is we have focused on making sure that we have the right partners, the right people, and the right support to deliver these things to you each and every day. So, from our standpoint, we think we've come an awful long way, and we've seen some phenomenal trends that have really picked up. For those of you that are not aware, back in April, we actually saw UiPath go public. The stock came in very, very high, and the need for robotic process automation is now higher than it has ever been before. There's a lot of nuances associated with robotic process automation that you might not be familiar with. Well, the neat thing about it is we spent the time, we spent the money, we spent the training, we hired the right individuals to be able to sit down with you and analyze your current processes. You probably have a list of maybe 5, 10, 15, maybe even as high as 35 as one of our customers does in their back office environment, looking at these solutions and trying to figure out how they fit. Well, we can now deliver robotic process automation solutions to you on a low risk basis. So we can come in, we will do the analysis with the solutions. We can actually make sure that the software is installed, it's ready to go for you, and it's up and running for you. And the nice thing about it is we can do all of this very easily and very eloquently. And I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, the nice thing about this is, if this is a repeatable solution, I will have our team focused on teaming with you and making sure that you have a low-cost implementation so that you receive the biggest bang for your buck from the get-go. So our team is going to work side by side, making sure that we understand what that process looks like, exactly what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and making sure that by the time you go live, you're having a return on investment for what we actually produce for you. So do us a favor, think about robotic process automation. Think about where you might see it fitting within your organization. If obviously accounting solutions back office is an absolute no-brainer, but you probably have areas within your organization that you know that you have people doing repeatable tasks. So there's a Gartner study that's out there right now that shows within the next 10 years, there's approximately 34 million jobs that will change from what we consider to be a cubicle job to basically a robotic process automation job. So what I encourage you to do is think about what those individuals are doing. This isn't going to take you a lot of time. It might take you 4 hours, it might take you 6, it might take you 8. And think about things that are actually repeatable processes that these individuals are doing. And once you think about those, you'll realize that some of these can actually be automated as much as humanly possible. Well, in this case, as much as digitally as possible. And I think that what we'll see is we'll see the ability to take what somebody was doing that's really repeating tasks and automating them using digital workers. It is the future. In all honesty, we thought it wouldn't happen until 2025. I think because of COVID, we've seen this pulled in much closer. And I believe that in 2021 and 2022, you're going to see an exponential growth in the use of digital workers, automating as many processes out there as possible. The other thing is obviously remote work. We know that through COVID, we basically were here one day, if I remember correctly, it was a Friday in March, and literally by the following Monday, we were all working remotely. It was a little bit scary. If I remember correctly, they said we were trying to flatten a curve. It would only take 2 to 4 weeks. And it was funny because I actually asked our executive team how long they actually thought on that Friday we would be gone. The longest I heard was actually 2 months. Well, those 2 months actually expanded to 6 months, then it was 9 months, then it was 12 months. And in general, we're not really quite sure if we'll ever go back to a normal environment. Well, the beauty of it is, if you think about it, if you implemented a core solution from KeyMark, it probably included OnBase and probably gave you the ability to work from anywhere. And I didn't realize how compelling the solutions were for our customers until I actually had a CIO of a very large university that happens to use orange as their core color articulate to me that what they didn't do was they didn't implement a document management and workflow system with the capabilities of working remote. And had they done so, he would have been able to flip the switch overnight and been able to take everything that they were doing and actually send it out to the workforce. So the funny thing about it is, here's a gentleman who tried to get it done, was somewhat blocked and didn't actually implement it, and ultimately reached out to me and proactively said, Jim, I sure wish we would have done it because it would have made it more effective for us to actually go remote, effective, immediate. So with all these tools that we talked about, with all the different solutions, it's so easy to work remote. And the good thing about it is, if you think about it, all these systems are transactionally processing systems. So all that data is basically going to be in a database that you can report against. So you know exactly what people are accomplishing. If you'd like, you can give bonuses if they accomplish more. So think about making sure that you have that core system in place as you're now trying to figure out if you're going to be back in the office full time, or you're going to have a hybrid solution, or maybe you're going to be remote everywhere. But the nice thing about it is, once you have this core solution in place, you can do any of those 3 options because you have a great system that is actually maintaining your core processes for you. The next thing is the COVID-19 impact. We talked a little bit about how the timeline of artificial intelligence and hyper-automation has moved up. And I cannot encourage you to consider what you're doing today to be more important than ever. In the past, you might have heard me speak, and I always talked about the customers who used automation so that they were in a position to be able to buy other companies, to increase their stock price, to possibly provide better services to their constituents. And they're the ones that truly thrived. Well, I think if you look at it in today's world, because of COVID, everyone's remote, and you have to look at this hyper-automation and figure out how you can be more competitive in the environment that we're currently working in than you were in the past. This is a major shift in fundamentally how we actually deliver services. And I consider this to be a great breakthrough. And if you look at it, this is really, for what we want to call, this is called Automation 4.0. So this is something that you really need to think about. This is the industrial era going through a major shift in overall how we deliver solutions and how we basically perform our work on a real-time basis. The nice thing about it is you don't have to be scared about this. Number one, you've already invested in a phenomenal infrastructure for growth. And number two, you trained yourselves on these technologies so that you feel comfortable with them and you know how to roll them out. And number three, you have us here to help you. So we are here as an ally for you. We are here as a partner for you. We're here to work side by side with you to make sure that your solutions are delivering the best possible performance in every case, in every install. So if you think about it, we talked a lot about this hyper-automation. You know, I don't encourage you to think about automating every single nuance of what you're doing. I don't believe that financially that makes the best sense. But I do encourage you to think about how do we automate up to 80% of our overall processes that are out there today. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit more from the knowledge basis. You might have to have better documentation. You might have to hire industrial engineers, whether that's internal or external, us working with you, to basically have industrial engineers to come in, look at what your processes are, and giving you some sound judgment as to what we can accomplish. But don't think about hyper-automation as a requirement for you to automate every single segment of your business down to so that there's no human interaction. That's really not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is automating and getting the biggest bang for your buck so that you can automate as much as possible in a short period of time with the technologies that you have today. You don't have to do coding. You don't have to do a lot of the basic ground up work because all that's done for you. Now we're talking about configuration tools that can be rolled out swiftly. So as long as you have the foundation of knowing exactly what your process is and an understanding as to where you want to go, the configuration tools that we sell, that we work with you on implementing can be rolled out quickly, either in a prototype environment or, if need be, we can get it out fast in a production environment. So think about what you're trying to accomplish and make sure you're automating as much as humanly possible. Don't go the whole way though. If you try to go the whole way, the problem is that last 5%, you're going to try to deal with all these exceptions that are out there. And as you know, I've never encouraged that you try to make sure that you automate everything. Obviously automate as much as possible, but don't think about the fact that you have to go 100%. Let's focus on getting the biggest bang for our buck, and let's focus on getting that 80% that drives us crazies, and let our human minds actually do the heavy lifting of the exception handling at the end. Now, we talked a lot about capture over the years, and as some of you might know, we've been in the capture industry for 25 years. Well, I'm here to tell you that the capture industry is changing and evolving at a much more rapid pace than it has in the first 25 years. So things that we basically have struggled to do over the last 25 years, such as handprint, such as getting something up fast without having a lot of training, we now, believe it or not, have the capability of reading handprint. Maybe not my handprint, because obviously my handprint isn't necessarily the best that's out there. But we now have the capability of reading somebody like Cammie's handprint, who writes extremely well. And ultimately what we're able to do now is, through the use of some of the engines that are out there, we can now grab handprint information and effectively process it. Obviously, we could do it with CAR-LAR, which is check reading information, but now we can actually do it in forms that we could never do in the past. This has opened up a whole Pandora of opportunities for us that we've never been able to solve before. We also have better read rates on things such as invoices. So now obviously in the past we've read header data, we've read footer data. If you need that line item information read, we have the capability of doing it for you. So the bottom line for you, and you've heard me say this often, is there's no possible way that you can process an invoice cheaper than what we can do it for you. So when you think about all these different solutions with the capture space, I mentioned a little bit previously about mobile capture. If you are not using mobile capture today, I encourage you to take a look at it. Talk to our sales engineers, Ben and his team, and they will show you how easily and elegantly you can roll out a true mobile capture solution and get phenomenal results, not only in the actual capture of the document, but the image cleanup, the quality of that data, and making sure it's processed effectively throughout your entire organization. So the capture market has changed, and you need to think about what you're doing today and realize that you might not need some of the systems that you've developed before. You probably don't need that front desk clerk anymore. You probably don't even need the kiosk that you have behind you. Right now, what we can do is we can empower our customers or our constituents using mobile applications so that they can grab the data and begin the processing themselves. The best thing about this, if you think about it, is we're now encouraging the end user to actually enter the information and to do the validation to make sure it's correct. So James David Wanner, if I take a picture of my driver's license, I'm now the one looking at my driver's license and validating that that information is correct. This goes a long way to making sure that whatever we're storing in our database is accurate information and does not deviate from what the end user is looking for. So the overall capture space has changed. It has changed very rapidly, and it's going on a trajectory that will be exponentially different than anything that you've ever seen. So do us a favor, reach out to your account managers and let them know that you've thought about your overall solutions that you have in place, and you'd like to take a look at exactly what it is that you're doing today and see if there's a way that we might be able to modify it, to expand it, and to change it so that it could improve. We're here to help. We have a tremendous amount of experience, as you know, in these spaces, and if there's anything we can do to help you automate your efficiencies and make sure that you're gaining the value from it, we're here to make sure that that happens. So we talked about replacing these tedious tasks and all these things that are out there and repetition. I want you to understand that ultimately we are going to make sure that once we get these done, that once the overall process is implemented, that by the end of the day, the data going into your system will still be clean. That's key, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to replace bad or good data by having a human do it with bad data by having a machine do it. So by automating all these solutions, we'll be able to get to the point that once that data is installed and is uploaded into your system, it is as clean and as effective as possible. So we will equip you guys to do everything that we can to make sure we're automating those overall solutions. So think about where this is heading. Where's the overall market going to go? The market's going to, first of all, it's going to be easy for you to roll out solutions. In the past, we would look at you and we would say this solution might take 9 months to implement. It might take 12. Heck, I can remember some systems we may have worked with you for as long as 15 to 24 months to implement a solution. The actual overall time frame for when we can actually roll out a system with you is going to be shorter. Now, I'm not saying we can get down to a matter of days, because that might be excessive. But the bottom line is we can do things that we would think about doing in years, we can now do in months. In months, we might be able to do in weeks. And that is really compelling, because now you can achieve a return on your investment faster and better. The other thing that's important is you can now roll out prototypes really quick. So if you want to see if something might work, you can basically take what we're suggesting, you can roll out a prototype very quickly and very inexpensively to your group and see if it's something that's actually providing benefit for them. And ultimately, the nice thing about it is, if you get that rapid response back from them, you can know if there's a chance to use the agile methodology for project management and have these systems implemented in a shorter period of time so that you get a bigger bang for your buck. The other thing that's happening is that the actual solutions and their ability to execute has increased exponentially. I mentioned to you about how the OCR engines are so much better than they were 5, 10, 15 years ago. So these solutions today are getting great reads from the get-go. we have to obviously do a little bit of learning. We have to process them. But the nice thing about it is things that would take us so long to implement, we couldn't see what the results were. We knew what the target was, but now we can implement these systems in a very, very short period of time. So the great thing about that is, again, you're going to achieve a fantastic return on your investment, and you're going to be able to build prototypes quickly, effectively, and efficiently. So when you think about all that's happening in the world, you have people that have computer science degrees, but now these people with computer science degrees can take these systems and they can roll them out so much faster. You probably, from a maintenance standpoint, don't even have to maintain a lot of these systems at your facility, specifically because all these solutions can now be delivered in the cloud. So you don't have to worry about the servers, you don't have to worry about the administrators. We'll take that heavy lifting burden off of you, and we'll be doing this in the back office environment to make sure that we're delivering for you. When you map it all out, the key here is, do you have the information at your fingertips so that you can run your organization better? Through the use of the reporting tools that have been developed, not only can you look at the information and map out how these processes are affecting your organization, but you can also look at them and how they could be tweaked to enhance the overall performance. Why does this matter? It matters specifically because of hyper-automation. We're looking to get the biggest bang for a buck as we move forward. So we are trying to make sure that we know exactly where those roadblocks are and those jams. And through the use of some of our tools that we have, specifically like an Abby timeline product, we can actually link these up to your database, and we can give you results to show you where the roadblocks are, where you're getting your best efficiencies, and overall where you can really gain once you make these tweaks. I think if you think about the future, the greatest thing that you can actually consider is that a year from now, you're going to be better than what you were today. So 2 years from now, you can see where the efficiency gains come from. And the great thing about that is, you know, if you do it right, you're going to be more competitive in the environment. You're going to basically provide a bigger return for your investment. And if you're a government organization, your constituents are going to be much happier with you. So I think that's where everything's heading from an overall artificial intelligence process. Now, what we didn't talk about is NLP. So will these systems have the ability to learn, and will they have the ability to effectively make changes on the fly so that we're delivering a better solution in the future? Overall, right now, those things are coming. It's evolving. So I can't tell you that it's here today, but I can tell you that within the next year to 2 years, we will be able to link NLP solutions to the overall processes that we have in place. That's going to be a game changer. But you got to think about what you need to do today to make sure that you have the platform to take advantage of NLP when it comes in play within a year or two. So don't just sit there and say, I'm going to wait. That's a mistake. Instead, what I encourage you to do is think about what we talked about. Think about how John Harrison and the sales team can come in and work with you side by side and analyze your overall processes, and how we might be able to come in and do a study with you and actually make sure that we're doing an overall solution design and scope from an engineering side, and give you an honest assessment as to where you can gain the efficiencies and where you'll benefit from an overall solution. So you're probably asking today, what's happening with our vendors? Well, I have an update for you from a vendor standpoint. I'll start with Highland Software and just give you an idea as to what's happening within that organization. Over the past year, they have acquired a couple of companies. The most important one from your standpoint is they did acquire Another Monday, which is an RPA product. And basically that's going to work well within a workflow environment within the OnBase platform. They also have had a big push to improving their ability to deliver on the global cloud services solutions. So at KeyMark, we have obviously encouraged people to consider moving to the cloud. And basically the other thing that we've been doing is, behind the scenes, we've been working really close with Highland to make sure that the global cloud solution improves exponentially so that you get what you deserve from a customer standpoint. Another thing that they've worked very diligently on is making sure that the case management systems are easier to roll out and they're more effective for you. On top of that, what we've been able to do is we've been able to work directly with our team, the operations side of the house, and develop an eloquent way for you to roll out case management systems within your organization. It's something that I think you should consider, especially if you're looking very closely at a case management system, because the nice thing about it is it'll give you the ability to test a case management system, make sure it works, and then roll it out very, very swiftly. So there's a lot of changes at Highland Software. They've evolved, they're coming along in a great way, and I encourage you to reach out to us and ask any questions that you might have about them. From the Blue Prism side of the house, this is still the premier product for enterprise RPA solutions. The nice thing about that is, if you think about what you're trying to accomplish, you have probably a great ERP, a great HIS system, a phenomenal customer case management system. You link that up to a Highland system that obviously is phenomenal at enterprise solutions. And then what we have done is we made sure that we linked up with the premier product for basically RPA from an enterprise platform, which is Blue Prism. So Blue Prism's come an awful long way. I talked a little bit before about how you should take a look at your processes and see where you might be able to automate it. The other nice thing that they've done is they work very closely with us to reduce your risk to test and to roll out some of these systems. So reach out to our team, ask us some questions, and see how we might be able to help you. Abby's done an awful lot over the last year. The first thing that they have done is they evolved on the Timeline product that can analyze your workflows and give you constructive feedback as to areas that you might be able to improve. Another thing that they've done is they rolled out a new capture platform that basically can be rolled out faster, better, and cheaper than previous solutions that are out there. This company is evolving at a very rapid pace, and overall there's a lot of different things that we can now help you with. LiveGenic. I talked about the ability to actually link up and actually have a visual communication with somebody else and record it. The tool I was talking about is a product called LiveGenic. Currently, we use it effectively within the P&C, property and casualty space of the insurance industry, but we also use it at Health and Human Services to make sure that we have a case manager who can effectively communicate back to a child and make sure we have that constant communication. It's a very inexpensive tool, and the nice thing about it is it can be up and running in days, not weeks, not months, not years. I encourage you, if you have any interaction with your customers that needs to be real time, that needs to be recorded, to take a look at LiveGenic and see how it might be able to help you. And then last but not least is Kofax. Many of us have struggled with dealing with PDFs over time. And the nice thing about Kofax is they now have given us the ability to use their platform that used to be with the company called Nuance, not the organization that Microsoft bought, and be able to manipulate the PDFs. So they have just recently in April given us the ability to actually sell and implement their Power PDF solution and roll that out to our customer base. So overall, there's a lot happening with our vendors. We are educated, we're here to help you, and if there's anything that we can do to assist, let us know. This is an incredible way to end this presentation. And I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart, I was concerned. When we all went home and I realized that we might be all at home for a long period of time, I was really concerned about our ability to deliver exactly what we've always committed to you. I didn't know if our support team would be able to execute at a really high level. I didn't know if our sales team would be able to make sure that they understood what the nuances were about your organization so that we could actually roll out a solution that benefited you, because we wouldn't have the sales engineers working with you side by side. And overall, the interesting part of what's happened over the last year is that I really looked at our Net Promoter Score that I know many of you might be familiar with, that I try to give you my report card on what you think of us each and every year. Well, I thought our Net Promoter Score would, for the first time, drop below 70. So when we got our final results back, we actually almost achieved a Net Promoter Score of 73. That is your report card back to me, telling me how our organization has performed. And that's why I appreciate the trust that you've given us in making sure that we are your partner, at least on a year-by-year basis. So if you think about it, we were able to actually increase the Net Promoter Score while we were distributed during a pandemic, while we had questions about what we were able to execute on. So I'm very proud to say that not only has our support team done a phenomenal job in working with you, which I greatly appreciate. But also our implementation team has also increased their scores to the point that now we're actually 7 points ahead of what we had as our projection. So if there's anything that we can do better, all of you have given me some constructive feedback or things that we could do better from a support side, from an implementation side, and our ability to deliver. Please let us know. Our goal is to make sure that we're always knowledgeable, we're always trustworthy, and we're always responsive for you. And if we can do that, I know that we can be your trusted partner, not only today, but 5, 10, 15 years from now. A lot of you have been with us, and I appreciate that for a long time from a customer standpoint. We truly honor the relationship, and we want to make sure that we're here working side by side with you on a real-time basis. So the one thing that I always cherish, and I say this each and every year, you have problems that you run into. You have problems that you might not be able to solve, or you just want to brainstorm. Well, the nice thing about it is we're here as an ally for you. If you just want to reach out to us, if you want to basically say, here's a problem that we have, how might you solve this? That is really what we're here to do. We're here to help you solve your core problems. Some might be back office solutions, some might be mission critical, some might be life-threatening if you're a healthcare organization. But the gist of it is, I want you to know that that is always our focus. My focus to you and my commitment to you is that we want to make sure that that Net Promoter Score never drops. It always goes up. Our customer surveys are always the highest in the industry. And if there's anything that we can do better, I hope that you either give me a call, you send me an email and ask me for a time to meet, or even more important, you just ask me to come visit and you're proud and you actually show me what it is that we've been able to do for you. There is nothing that makes me more excited than when I walk through a customer site and I see big screens with reports as to what we're actually performing for you, how we're doing business with you, and the efficiencies that you've gained by working side by side with KeyMark people. If there's ever anything that we can do, please let us know, and we will be there side by side to help you out. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you for participating in our conference. We at KeyMark, when we're sitting around trying to figure out how to do better, we always think about you first. Ultimately, I realize that an income statement's important, the balance sheet's important, but how we take care of you from an organizational standpoint and your feedback to us is the most important report card that we have each and every year. Think about what we could do better. If there's anything that we can do for you, let us know. We hope you've enjoyed this virtual conference, and at some point in the near future, I'd really appreciate if you'd reach out to us, and hopefully maybe by the fall we can come out and say hello, sit down, and cherish our moments again together. Take care, have a wonderful day, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.